What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Champion Living Podcast, the only podcast crossing lines between the sport of rodeo and fitness. Today's episode, we have a very special guest on, Matt Scharping, Phenom Genetics. We're diving in right now.
I guess you got to go check out that Dragon's Lair gym. That thing is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It was
that's
on my list.
That's what Matt West says too. He said, like, it's the only place he goes out there.
Yeah, it's almost intimidating, honestly, because there's so much equipment. Yeah. Like, I'm literally sitting. My office is my gym, so like I'm looking at my like I got a rack and free weights, like, and bands, like that's all I use. And then you get in there, it's like, man, I don't even know what the hell to do with all that shit.
Well, let me ask this, because this is the reason that I was intimidated to go during the NFR. What are the people like in there? Or is it just a bunch of just enormous bodybuilder type dudes, or is it kind of everybody?
Do you know Nick Walker?
No.
All right, look up Nick Walker. So Nick Walker's a massive human. They call him the mutant for a reason.
He's a massive dude.
He is massive, but there's a lot of really big guys, but then there's a wide variety as well.
Okay.
And the one cool thing about Flex is he doesn't allow guys to be like musclehead jackasses in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're all super cool. They're good to be around. Like, they're not jackasses like you'd expect.
Yeah.
So it's cool. Like, you guys got to meet Flex. Like, if you're in there, and like, that guy is as good of a human being as you'll ever meet.
That's what I hear. I hear he's an awesome, awesome guy. And I've been told by multiple people, like, you've got to go meet him. Like, he's awesome. You guys will get along. He loves cowboys and rodeo, which is even cooler.
Yeah. It's like, it was kind of a weird deal how I get, like, Matt West actually hooked me up with him. And I told Matt, I'm like, well, I'll buy a plane ticket and go and meet him. He's like, you don't want to call him on the phone? I'm like, nope, not interested. Yeah. He's like, really? I'm like, no, this type of stuff, like, I want to meet him face to face, because I really don't give a shit how much money you got or what your status is. If I don't like you, I won't do business with you. And so I went and flew out there and never met him, nothing. Walked into the gym. I got a cowboy hat on. This big bastard comes walking up to me. He's like, are you Matt? I said, what was it, my fucking hat? He starts laughing. He goes, well, kinda. He's like, Flex is back here. So we went and met Flex, and I sat there for 4 hours and bullshitted with him. And it was like, he's one of my best friends now. Like, we talk all the time. Cool. He's just a super cool guy, like, good human being. So,
dude, that is awesome. And he's partnered on some bulls, right?
Yep. Yeah, and we're starting a new deal too, just for like, real high end clients. A lot of his friends, like a separate little fraternity league, and that's cool. Going to pay out a shit ton of money with like very few calves. But it's the most important part of it is the networking, because you're going to be around people that are highly influential.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest part of it.
That is so cool. Did I see Dana White did he buy into some bulls too? I saw a post
with Dennis Davis. Actually, Dana's been in the bull business for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, he's owned bulls. What the hell did they used to call? Billy James had a deal that started. Anyway, Dana got in on that deal long time ago, and then Dennis kind of took it over and just doing his own thing. And he's owned some bulls with Dennis. So, but they're getting big press. And that's like I told Flex, I'm like, this is a huge opportunity, because like Dana and Flex are big buddies too. And so like that whole circle of people, like that excitement is, like I told Flex, that's free advertising. Literally.
Absolutely.
While we're talking about it, I want to ask, this has been a burning question of mine personally for a while, because it's always been my dream to like own bucking bulls, but now I see, like, you know, with my career choice now and my position in life, like, it's just not really in the cards to have a place where I can, you know, raise bulls. So like partnerships has always kind of been a thing. And I know PBR used to do like the backseat buckers program and all that. And it seems like now a lot of guys are moving towards like these high profile partnerships. So like, you know, you're working with Flex, and, you know, Dana White's in, and, you know, Blake Sharp has like Co Wetzel and stuff as partners. How does a little guy start in partnerships in the buck and bull industry?
Shit, we're all little guys.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we've always tried to make it something available to everybody, right? Because I never want to alienate a fan that wants to be involved just because it's financially impeding. So we've always started like a basic deal where you buy a baby calf, right?
Mhm,
That's, I mean, all this is high stakes gambling. I always tell people if you can't like the cash you're going to write me a check for and watch it burn,
mhm.
don't write me a check because that's reality of the buck and bull deal.
Mhm.
This is entertainment. This is the best way to describe it's like buying a boat. You don't buy a boat because you think you're going to make money with it. You buy a
Mhm,
boat because you love what being on a boat means.
Yep.
And so that's the biggest thing. So we always try to get it like at different stages. I just priced a bull last night. Like to buy half of that bull's 40,000. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
so that's not financially possible for everybody, right?
Mhm.
So we always do a deal with a young calf where it could be a superstar and it could not be. Like we
Mhm,
don't know, but it's a lower price point so people can get involved and not they don't have to have all the equipment. They don't have to have everything else. We take care of everything and they can get involved for, 10, 12,000 bucks,
mhm.
which still a lot of money, but in this game, that's not a lot of money because I mean, you can go and buy half interest on a bull for 150,000 if you need to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
So when you're doing that with a calf and, say, arbitrary number, $10,000, you're
Mhm.
selling a calf, like, what is the interest that they're purchasing in that calf? Are they fully buying the
49,
calf? 49. Okay,
49%. I
cool.
always keep 51%
Mhm.
because the one thing about me is it's always about the animal. The
Mhm,
animal is always
Mhm.
first
Mhm.
without any shadow of a doubt. Um, and I can be a real ass about it because it's my job is to take care of animals.
Mhm.
And if that animal's not ready to go to a competition, I'm not entering. Like,
Mm.
I don't give a shit if you want him entered. I'm not
mhm.
entering.
So you always maintain majority vote in anything with animal welfare.
Right.
I like that.
Because it's all about the care of that animal.
Absolutely.
I refuse to put one of my animals in a bad situation.
Mhm,
So that's how it is 49%. And then people basically the partners, like for the first 2 years of life, I pay all the feed bill, the hauling bills, I pay all the expenses, and the partner pays the entry fees when we go to compete to win money. And then whatever money we win, we split 50-50.
That's a pretty cool
So
very
deal.
cool.
That's so
yeah,
wise. I feel like I would not have done that right off the bat. It would have taken that one bad opportunity or one bad thing to happen for me to realize that. And I just in the last couple of years of getting to know some of these guys that have a fortune that love the rodeo lifestyle and way of life and they want to be involved, but they have absolutely no idea what goes into it. They just want to throw money at
right.
it. And I feel like it wouldn't be hard to get involved with somebody like that that doesn't understand the
Mhm.
animal welfare portion of it or how to raise these bulls and how to give them a
Yeah,
chance. They just want to see their bulls buck. And so they're like, every weekend, Friday and Saturday and Sunday, let's just buck them, and it's like,
yeah.
anyway, I think that maintaining
It's
majority vote is so important.
Yeah, and it like I've had different experiences where all of a sudden the partner decides that they know more than I know about a buck
Mm,
and bull,
mm.
and well, then go do it yourself. Like I
Exactly.
don't know what to tell you. Like what the hell you got me for?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Exactly.
but it's like this is what we do, right? And we
Mhm.
try to give the most important thing that we forget in rodeo, in bull riding, and everything is what are we selling? We're selling an experience,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? If typically people who are involved in this have enough money that they're sitting okay,
Mhm.
but what they don't have is the experience of the lifestyle that we get to live. So we have to give them an experience. And that's what the whole deal for like this deal with Flex with Dragonetics is. Um, Flex and I are going to sell an experience for
Mhm.
these guys that have plenty of money, but it's also an avenue for guys to rub shoulders with people that are highly influential.
Mhm.
And who knows what comes from that later on down the road. And
Yep.
like I've hit up a handful of contestants, rough stock contestants that I think these guys would like to be around, and also the benefit for the contestants would be huge
Mm-hmm.
in the long
Be
run.
massive.
So yes, so it's people forget about networking. Like we're a bunch of cowboys, right? We don't
Mm-hmm.
think about the marketing side and whatever, and that's where I came from. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
came from sales and marketing. I didn't come from rodeo. I had no idea what the hell rodeo was. It's just like this. That's why this side of it is what intrigues me, and I enjoy it.
Dude, that's awesome. Let's well, I want to bounce into that. How did you get into rodeo? You come from sales and marketing, so how did you get to where you are now and build this,
Shit.
awesome reputation?
Uh, so I was a tool salesman and I drove race cars. That's what I did. Like that was
That's
my deal. Growing
badass.
up, like so we talked about like little different things. Like I looked at the stuff you sent me, Doug, and like I wrestled 103 pounds in high school. I was tiny.
Mhm.
Like I never grew at all until I was out of high school. So in high school I wrestled, but then other sports were pretty hard for me to do because I was so damn small. So
Yep.
I got into racing and just fell in love with it. And racing still is like a drug to me because like I have to stay away from it because I love it, and there's nothing that gives me the feeling of driving a race car.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, that's what I did. Well, anyway, in 2005, I was the number one tool dealer in the country, and they sent me to Michigan to build a district. While I was over there, I decided, like, man, number one, office life's not for me. Number two, I eventually want to move home and have cattle. And I grew up on a small farm, actually the farm I
Mhm.
live on. Um, and I wanted to have cattle, but I wanted something different. So I was like, man, I need an animal interaction. Like I knew I missed animals. So I was looking for a horse for my daughter online and I ran across a bucking bull website. So that is how I got in the
Here
bull
we go.
business. Here we go. So I fell in love with it
Oh, that's
and
cool.
just like it just became a passion. And because I could compete, which
Mhm.
racing, like I wasn't racing, I could still go and compete. I loved to compete. And then, but I got to raise my kids on the farm and teach them the things that
Mm.
to me are vital for a kid growing up. So yeah,
That's so
I
cool.
came in a real odd way into the rodeo.
I love it though. Like that competitive spirit's what got you essentially into it. And kind of you seem like the kind of guy that when you decide you're gonna do something, like you're kind of all in and we're
Yeah.
we're going full steam ahead and you better jump on it because I'm leaving you behind kind of deal. Uh
I tell my
so
kids all the time, like anything worth doing is worth doing right, or don't do it
yeah,
at all.
yeah,
Mm.
Like go and be good at it. Nobody remembers anybody that was average at anything.
absolutely
So
a fact.
go bust your ass.
That's a fact. But now you get to be almost a coach and a competitor at the same time. And the best part is the things that you're coaching the bulls, they don't get to talk back to you. They just have to listen to you, which is the coolest thing ever.
Well,
as as weird as this sounds, animals are way easier to deal with than people,
Oh yeah.
Mm.
No,
even if they're bulls.
I can imagine. And it's in the grand scheme of things, what you really are building, a bull team, a team of athletes that are just animal athletes, and you know what's best for them. And the hardest part about working with humans is, as coaches, we usually do know what's best for our athletes, but it's hard to pull them back. Just like the same thing as you having a partner that really has no idea. They see $20,000 in front they put in, and they're like, "Well, I want a chance to win that back. We got to buck that bull now." And it's like, no, he's not ready. We're not
Yeah,
going to win
exactly.
anything. We're going to potentially lose all of that money plus everything that we put into him. If we buck him right now. So I think that's pretty cool that you get to be in full control of that, and it's also very important for what you do to hold them first. And um, it's a common thing in rodeo. We hear all the time from PETA and these groups that protest rodeo is you guys don't treat the bulls or horses well. And it's so far from the truth. And I
Yeah.
think everyone listening here probably already knows that. But to hear you talk about it, someone that this is your whole life. I mean, these bulls are what you make a living on. You are extremely attached to
Yeah.
them and care for them.
What people don't realize, most people that like, and I've talked to a lot of animal activists about it. Like, if they're open minded, I'll talk to them about it
Hmm.
because, like, I have nothing to hide. And usually, if they're open minded to what it is and would just like have a conversation, they'll actually realize that being born a really good bucking bull is like winning the bovine lottery. Like,
mhm.
you get fed the best, cared for the best, any care that there's no expense spared in the care of that animal. They get to go and do a job that they love. They retire, breed some cows, and die of old age. Well, how many other bovine get to live that kind of life. The other part of it is people don't understand that animals learn off pain. So if something hurts
Mhm.
them, they're not going to do it.
Mm.
That's how animals learn. So if there was anything that we did that hurt that animal, he would never do it. And so when we start training young bulls, the whole thing is always good experiences. Everything has to be a good experience. You can't allow a young bull to have a bad experience in the box or in the lead ups or anything to do with it, because it'll make him quit.
Mhm.
Mm.
So, like, if people will understand the psychology of it and how an animal actually thinks, they'd realize there's nothing that we're doing to discomfort that animal, hurt that animal, make that animal's life miserable. And like, social media is a pain in the ass because everybody likes to say something that they'll
Mhm.
Mhm.
say behind a keyboard, but they won't say to someone's face.
Mhm.
And it's like, I'm a little bit more upfront with people like that.
Mhm.
Like, I'm going to call you out. If you're going to tell me that animal's one of my animals is suffering, you damn well better be able to explain yourself.
Yep.
Like, what makes you think that?
Mhm.
And it kind of raises some eyebrows on social media, but it's like, hey, my job's to defend my animal.
Mm.
Like, I'm taking care of my animal. And if you don't think I am, explain to me how I'm not. And that's fine.
Mhm.
We'll talk about it.
Yep.
So,
That's super important just being as an ambassador for the sport of rodeo to be able to have an actual conversation with opposing views is
yeah,
huge because that's how we actually make changes. That's how we change the view on rodeo and what's really happening is it's an education problem. It's people not being raised in
absolutely.
a rural lifestyle, not being around bulls, not being around horses. They think literally that they have no free will. You've taken all their free
Yeah.
will and they go do what you force them to do, and that's just not the case. These
Yeah.
animals have 100% free will and will do what they want to do or do not want to do every single time. So,
I
when
tell
they get in
people
that
all the
arena and
time,
buck, yeah, they wanna do
it
it.
like when at a building, like I used to do all the elite seat tours for the PBRs and all that stuff. And I always told them people, like, you see them standing in them pens, they stand there because they want to stand there.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
that pen is not holding them if they don't want to be
No.
there. There's nothing here that's going to stop them. So they're the only reason they're not hitting you is because they're choosing not to. you know. So, but
Yeah.
people don't understand that a lot of times.
No, they don't. That's an awesome point. I love to hear that, though. I wanna go back. When did you get into bull biz? How long have you been doing this?
I bought my first heifer accidentally on the internet in 2007.
Okay. Yeah.
It is what it
Uh,
is.
yeah. So we're 17 years into this thing. You've been doing this for a good bit now. What are from the time you started to where you are now, what are some changes you've seen in the sport, whether it's with the livestock or with the athletes? Like, what's the evolution of rodeo looked like in the past 17 years?
The evolution on the animal side of it is genetics have just amped up so fast. And we're getting animals to do things that they just couldn't do before because of selective breeding. And the American Bucking Bull Incorporated is the second largest registry in the country behind the
Mm.
Angus Association. Bucking Bulls
Wow.
in America's big business. So there is, like, the days of breeding to a full-blooded cow, like a cow that has no bucking genetics in it, are long gone. Like, they're 10 generations deep most of the time now. And so we're getting a different type of bull. Now, I will say that from, like, we look back at like the mid teens, like 2015, in that era of the type of bull that was going, what we considered a rank bull, and now what people are wanting to see at, whether it's a PBR or PRCA or whatever. The bulls changed a little bit, but I think a
Mhm.
lot of that has to do with the futurity game because there's such big
Yep.
money with bucking these bulls with a box on their back. So
Mhm.
there's that side of it. On the athlete side of it, I mean, you went from, um, I look back at like 2015. We were talking about this the other day. I went back to the first PBR. I hadn't been to a PBR in 4 years and went back to Chicago and going back and doing PBR stuff again. But the like the group of riders we had in 2015, when you talk about JB and Galermi and Silvano and Outlaw, and like just, you can go on and on about all these
Legends.
crazy
Yeah.
legends and dirty tough legends.
Yes.
And like that's a part of the deal that's changed a little bit,
Mhm,
you know. Um, and I think that's more of a society deal than it
mhm,
is anything else. I mean, you look in general, like I tell my kids all the time, the thing that I respect the most in today's day and age is a dirty, tough SOB
mhm,
because there's not many of them. And
Mm.
so I respect the heck out of that when someone is just a tough guy and, is going to grit through it
mm,
and do what he needs to do to get the job done. So I think it's evolved a little bit. I still think that the top end of everything is extremely high end as far as the riders go.
mhm.
I just think there's maybe not quite as many as what there once was.
I will agree with that 100%. We see this a lot with schools. We get, young kids that have definitely been raised in a different environment than we were all brought up in. We
Yeah,
all still got spanked as we were kids, so that was a big problem, a big part of it.
rightfully
Uh,
so.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, right? There's a lot of times I'm like, damn, some of these kids obviously have not been disciplined at all. But we used
Yeah,
to go to schools, and I know Logan was the same way, Paul was the same way, and when we went to a school, we went with the intent of I need to get on as many horses or bulls as I can to learn as much as I can in these reps because there was no real opportunity for someone to show you the quote unquote shortcuts to riding.
Mm.
right.
So it was all off in numbers, right? And so I remember going to schools. Me and Richie went to Clint Cannon School, our first school ever, and we got on 15 horses each in 2 days. And so we come to schools now and we are not pushing kids, but you'd have to twist an arm to get them on more than 3 horses a day,
Yeah,
and it's
there's bulls and horses in the alleys, and there's
they just don't have that
no
in
rope
that you
on
can
them,
put
no
Yeah,
rigging on them. It's like, all right,
yeah.
guys, come on. Like,
and I think that's a product
We're
of
here
the
to teach.
environment. They're on cell phones a lot more, they're indoors a lot more, they're just a little bit softer because everyone feels a lot more these days, it seems, right?
Yeah,
So, it is a huge change in that mindset, and, you listed those guys that were around back then, they are the dirtiest, most tough dudes you'll ever meet,
well,
hands down. Um
yeah.
And so it has changed a little bit, but it's, it's wild to see. It's cool to see. I think a lot of guys now are excited about the thought of being a superstar, and so drawing something good or being confident in writing something in their skill range, they're all about it. They'll be 85 all day. The second you run something in there that's gonna test
Right.
them between the ears, they don't have it, right? They don't
Yeah.
think they're that tough or that good, which is just, that can be fixed, but it is a interesting thing to think about how that's changed, and even in just the last 10 years, it's been a
The
big
ma-
change.
yeah, the majority, what people don't realize is 90% of life is between your ears. Like, how do you think about it? How do you go about it? Are you confident in it? Are you willing to push yourself? Are you willing to learn? Are you humble enough to know you don't know everything and that you do want to learn? And like so much of that, I went to a training one time. It was a sales training, and the guy he gave us a parable that was like, I'll never forget it. He's like if your neighbor came over and dumped a bunch of garbage in your yard, you'd be pissed. You'd want to go punch him in the mouth.
Mhm.
But you'll let that same guy come and dump garbage in your head, and you won't say a damn word about it.
mhm.
Mm.
And I'm like,
Wow.
wow. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that the truth? You'll listen to all the bullshit that you hear on social media and everywhere else and start believing it,
Mhm.
and not think a thing of it, and you won't do anything about it. Like, man, you being mentally strong and just having that uh the mentality of like, I'm gonna go get whatever I want and I'm gonna
Mhm.
do whatever I want. I'm willing to learn whatever I need to learn. That is something that is hard to find anymore. And
Yeah.
that's really what that's everything. I didn't know a single thing about bucking bulls when I got started. Nothing. And I had somebody ask me, well, why, what do you attribute your success to? Like from the racing, the tool business, and this. It's like I hate to lose.
Yep.
Like, honestly, that's what motivates me more than anything. I'm willing to work harder than most people in order to win because I hate losing that damn bad.
Me too.
So it's just a mentality.
That's a winner's mentality in my mind, at least. That's how I think too,
Yeah,
man. I'm all about that. Like it is. Everything is mostly between the ears, whether it's athletics, business, life in general. How you think about those events or whatever you're about to do is everything and controls
absolutely.
controls what's going to happen in the future. Go ahead, Logan.
I think you said something really important there and impactful is about being humble enough to say that I don't know. And I feel like with this information age that we're in, and everybody from the time that they're 12 on, maybe even younger, have social media, and everybody they see has the answer, or they already have it figured out. And so we just look at everybody's highlights, and what it's created is it's created this insecurity in all of us to say
Yeah.
that we don't know. And we see it a lot in the strength and conditioning community, and these, everybody has the secret sauce. Everybody knows exactly what to do, and the fact of the matter is that nobody actually knows exactly what to do, because we're learning more about the human body, and we're all just so insecure to admit I don't know, but
Yeah.
when you can actually come to a sport like learning how to raise bucking bulls, or you can want to become a strength and conditioning coach or a personal trainer, and you can be humble enough to say, I know nothing, I just want to learn, and
Mhm.
show me, teach me. And man, then you start to see success like you've had in the last 20 years. And it's
Yeah.
because of the fact that you've been moldable and teachable, and you didn't come in with an ego. You came in willing to say, I have no insecurities here. I don't know. Teach me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I knew nothing. Like, and I remember to this day, the guys that, like, I remember this is before a lot of, you couldn't do a Zoom call or do anything like that. It was like calling people on the phone and saying, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And I remember who took time and answered my questions
Mm.
and who didn't.
Mhm.
I remember those names very vividly. And like everybody that messages me now, I respond back to. It's not somebody else doing it. I respond to them because, and some people are tire kickers. Some people are really don't want to know anything. They just want to talk to you.
Mhm.
But there's other people that really want to know. And like, I want to be able to help those people and educate them to whatever it is that they need, because they might want to actually bust their ass and go and get something too.
Mhm.
And so like that's important to me is taking the time to respond to people, because you don't know, you might have to go through 50 of them before you get the one that actually wants to do something about it. But I'm not I remember who answered. And so that's why I answer everybody.
That's awesome. I do the same too, man. We all answer our own messages because it really it's important, because we were all at that point at one time where we needed help from somebody, and
Mhm.
all we needed was
Absolutely.
someone to give us some solid advice, and it would have put us in a totally different route or
Yeah.
trajectory. So it's important.
Huge.
When did I wanted to I have 2 questions. First of all, do you have your bulls on fitness programs? Like, how does that work? Do you work them out? Like, are there things that
So
you
it
do
depends on
for
the time of year.
okay.
So when we're rodeoing heavy, like when we load up and leave for Montana, and like we'll take 30 head of bulls to Montana at the end of June, and they don't come home till the end of September. They definitely don't need no fitness program
No.
because they're working every weekend.
Yeah.
But prior to that, yes, we'll exercise them, we'll run them, just mainly to get their cardio working and burn off any like extra fat or anything like that. The biggest thing in bucking bulls is nutrition.
Mhm.
Nutrition is everything with these things. And so, like, when I started in Minnesota, like, I don't know if you know this, but Minnesota's not bucking bull country.
No.
So when I went to the feed store, I'm like, man, I'm going to raise these bucking bulls. I need feed for them. They said, well, we got this great beef feed. We got this great dairy feed. And I'm like, well, I don't plan on eating them. And I sure as hell ain't trying to milk one of these things. So I want to create an athlete. So
Mhm.
my vet, Dr. Overbo, and I have we've tested so many feeds. It's insane. Spent thousands of dollars testing feed and figuring out like what works, what doesn't work,
Mhm.
because there's so many misconceptions, even in our industry, that they think you can just add this and it's going to do something for them. But most of the time, that's coming from the horse industry, and that's a simple stomach animal versus a ruminant. Totally
Mhm.
different deal.
Yep.
90% of what you like a horse intakes, the rumen's going to kill, and you're not going to get anything out of it. So figuring out what works, what doesn't work. I've actually utilized some human stuff, like there's certain minerals and vitamins and different things to help create certain things that we've added to our feed that nobody else has ever done. Like every time I call my vet, I'm like, hey, how about this? He's like, where the hell did you find that? And it's like, I love that stuff though. It's like, what can we do to keep getting better and better and better? And, that's why at the end, like I truck all my feed to Montana from
Mhm.
Minnesota, And people are like, why the hell do you do that? You can get free feed, out there. The committees, I said, yeah. And then I'm feeding them some junk that
Mhm.
by the time we get to Pendleton, my stuff is going to be,
Wasted.
in bad shape. Where
Mhm.
now we get to Pendleton, my stuff looks the same as it did when we got there.
Mhm.
And because it's nutrition based and it's
Mhm.
multiple sources of protein, so you don't burn their gut up, and understanding what works. It's no different than a human. If you take
No.
like a single source of protein, it's going to burn your gut up. You're going to wonder why
Mhm.
your gut's on fire, right?
Mhm.
But then if you have multiple sources and it
Variety.
digests at different times, now the animal gets, or we get to utilize it.
Mhm.
Same principle works, right? So we
Mhm.
feed an extremely high protein diet. People say you can't feed that high protein diet. Like, yeah, you can. You just have to understand what you're doing. Like, you can't have it single source. It can't be all corn. It's got to be all different sources. So we have 7 different sources of protein, plus then in our pellet that we have manufactured that is just like all the goodies. And when we manufactured it, Doc asked me, he's like, is it quality or price that you're worried about in your pellet? I said, what do you mean? Like, I want the best damn pellet I can feed, the best ingredients I can. He goes, well, that's all I need to know. He's like, because even just vitamins for bulls, you can buy a good vitamin that they'll be able to digest, or a vitamin that they really can't digest. I'm like, oh, no kidding. Like, so he's taught me so much. And so it's like everything in our pellet, it's not cheap. It's expensive to feed. Like, it costs me $10.50 a day to feed a big bull.
Mm.
But like, when what they're getting, if they're worthwhile feeding, they're getting the best stuff we can feed. And
Yep.
we start our calves from the time we wean, they start on our bull feed. So that way I never have to question whether, like, if they, someday get an injury, I don't have to look back at myself and go, man, if I would have only fed them the way they
Mhm.
should have been fed when they were young,
Yep.
I wouldn't have had this. Now, if something happens, it happens. It was supposed to be. But there's like tendon strength, bone structure, like all that type of stuff is crucial when the animals are young. And
Yeah.
so we don't shortcut anything. Like, it's always top end. And then, like, people say, well, I can't afford to feed like that. Well, then you got too many of the damn things. Get rid of the ones that aren't worth feeding. Like,
Yep.
it's a pretty simple system. But the ones that are good enough, feed them the way they're supposed to be fed, and you'll get more out of them. They'll
Mhm.
repay you back.
That's
So
so cool to hear, man. It is so similar to rodeo athletes too, or just people in general. Like you talk about showing up for the summer run, your bulls leave looking one way, and because of their
yeah,
nutrition and their fuel they've been getting, they look the same way at the end of the season and they
yeah,
perform the same. They're performing outstanding. We see this with athletes all the time. They start the season hot. We get to September, guys are beat to hell. They haven't been eating right. They've lost weight.
yeah,
Yeah, they're not riding well. And
yeah,
it goes the same way. You've got to fuel yourself to perform. And to hear the same athletic uh what's the word I'm looking for? Like process going towards animals
yeah,
is so cool because it just shows
yeah,
how much you do care and how much of this really is. Man, there's so much planning that has to go into this and lots of there's so much science, man, that goes into this,
yeah,
figuring this all out. It's huge. That's
Well,
crazy.
that's exactly why I got into doing what we're doing, is because guys like Matt have bulls on nutrition programs. They exercise them. They hold them back from competition when they're not ready. So they're preserving the athlete. They're like Matt is creating elite athletes.
Mhm.
Nobody is doing that for bull riders, let alone the fact that we can selectively breed them and turn over a new generation of genetics every
We're not there yet on
two
the
to
bull
four
riders.
years.
yeah.
Yeah. Like
Still
we
got some work to do there,
Yeah.
guys.
yeah, we so like it 9 times out of 10 a guy shows up, like if he's not doing those things as well, like he's outmatched every single
Yeah,
time. And so like that's like where my heart is behind, coaching and coaching these athletes is like we got to catch up, guys. Like these bulls are going to leave us in the dust.
They already are.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they
It's
already
it's
are.
pretty insane to watch the how the and you said something that was powerful there. Like, from the bulls to the horses are so different because horses last so much longer. And so,
Mhm.
like, all of our horses out in Montana too, it's like you can we just retired Sudoku, and she's 20 years old. Like,
God, I love that
man,
horse.
a bull is done. Like, they're 90% of them are retired at 10 years old.
Mhm.
And so it's like our with bulls, it turns over so much faster than even the horses. And that's why, like, there's such a difference in bulls and horses too.
That's such a cool point. I never even thought about that. The difference
Yeah,
in age between those animals and I would say it's kind of a similar career longevity path, the same athlete to animal. Bull riders, a lot of bull riders don't last that long. They ride really
Right.
well for a short amount of time and they're hot, and then they can't come back because of injury or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You see a lot of good bulls not last that long because of the same
Yeah.
thing. That's really interesting.
And
I'd never really thought about
we
that.
do like pulse electromagnetic frequency therapy on them, and we'll do anything from chiropractic work to acupuncture work to injections for hawks and that type of thing. Like anything that that animal needs, that's what they get. Like uh, there's really no expense spared, and there's nothing like like technology as technology's changing. Like we're trying to stay ahead of that and add whatever we can into our program to make sure that the animal is always feels the best, because the animal will only buck as good as he feels. So
Mm,
if he doesn't
Mhm.
feel right, he's not going to buck right.
mm.
So
Yep.
what can we do to make him feel the absolute best that he can feel? That's our goal.
You just listed all those things that you're doing for your bulls, and I'm thinking about what the bull riders are doing.
Dude, I was thinking
They're
the same.
literally swiping. They're sitting on the couch swiping on Tinder.
Yeah.
They're binging Netflix shows, and they're like, for the most part, right? There are definitely some
Yeah.
exceptions, but for the
Mhm.
most part, these guys that are just getting ready to start going to velocities, or maybe they're on their permit, or they're getting ready
Yeah.
to buy their rookie card in the PRCA. The like Just like Paul was saying, and really a theme of this conversation has been that the genetics, the caliber of bulls are going up, and the activity level of the riders is going down. Over the last
Mhm.
Yeah.
20 years, we've just seen such a difference in the preparedness of the athletes versus the preparedness of the livestock. And that's why when you go, I mean, I help with some very small amateur rodeos, open rodeos near me. We get 10 to 12 bull riders a rodeo, and I help judge about 15 rodeos throughout the summer, just little fair rodeos.
Yeah.
I marked one qualified ride last summer. One, right? So I mean, probably 200 outs, one qualified ride. And these are, and it's just their activity level. And mind you, it's a little bit of like this, the level in which they're competing at, right? But the activity level and preparedness of these guys, they go work a job, they drink a six-pack every night after work, they're fueling themselves absolutely trashy, they've got their shafts on before the bull riding starts so that they can go to the concession stand 3 times, and then they wonder why they don't make it past the end of the gate. You know what I'm saying? And so just
Yeah.
the preparedness of the, and obviously it's not that way at PBRs for the most part and PRCAs, but it's still the same thing applies. The preparedness of the
Yeah.
athlete is not meeting the preparedness of the animals.
And what's crazy to me is I had this conversation. I put on a bull riding here in Arlington, Minnesota, and I get all the bull riders together before we start. And like this year, I told them, I said, "Do you guys understand why we're here?" And they all just looked at me dumbfounded. And I'm like, "It's to entertain those fans.
Mhm.
Mm,
That is our job. If we don't entertain them, we don't have jobs. You don't have a place to ride for 20,000. I don't have work here. Like none of this matters unless we entertain our fans. Those people spend 20 bucks, whatever it is, to go and forget about their real life for 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is. So we're here to entertain them. They're not entertained by you guys bucking off all the time.
you're right. You're
Bottom
right.
line,
That's
like
a fact.
they
Yep.
came to a bull riding, not a bull bucking. Like
Mhm.
we need you guys need to ride. You guys need to grit it out and ride. And
Mhm.
but people forget about that. And it's like it's pretty easy to eliminate yourself from the equation of the entertainment industry if you're not fulfilling your end of the bargain.
Mhm.
So you damn well better figure out how to ride,
Yep.
or next time buy a beer and go sit in the stands if
Mm,
that's the
Yeah.
way you want to live it.
Yeah, and I think any bull riders listening right now, should stop comparing themselves to other riders and start thinking about the
Yeah.
competition, which is the bull they're getting on. If you just heard the list of things
Mhm.
that Pat is doing to help his bulls recover, to feed, to be fit, like if you guys aren't even putting in a little attention to it, you guys are so fucked. Like those, you don't have a
Yep.
stand a chance against his bulls. You don't, not even a little bit. So
It's
that I think that puts it into great perspective for guys. Like, don't compare yourself to the guy or your roommate like that's getting on bulls.
yeah.
What are these bulls doing? Like, what are these guys doing to prepare their bulls to buck your ass off in less than a second? Because that's all that's been happening, right? Like, you've got to do something different. You've got to prepare yourself. Phenom Genetics, Matt's over here treating these things like the most elite athletes in any sport. It doesn't matter if it's an animal or not. he's broken this down into a science, and that's why his bulls buck so well and buck so hard. I think you're the only guy I've ever seen buck bulls at a pro rodeo. I think it was in Cheyenne a couple of years ago, and they were pissed because you
I
bucked
got fired.
everybody off. Yeah. Because your bulls were too good. Yeah,
I got
that was
fired.
it. I remember.
Like,
I
hey,
remember the
thanks,
day.
Stace. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah. But I'm
Come
like,
back. All
dude,
right, perfect.
where we're at, you know, is
Don't
like,
come back.
yeah, he's like, bulls are too good.
I don't know
Sorry,
what they
man.
want. Like, I'm not raising. Like, I tell this to people all the time. Like, bull riders coming. Like, the way we feed, I can't afford to keep practice bulls, right?
Mhm.
'Cause I'm not going to feed a bunch of shit to a bunch of crappy bulls just to have them standing here, create more work, because there's not enough guys that really want to. If there was guys that really wanted to and I could count on them and we could help them, that's great. But the issue is they won't come here.
Mhm.
So, like, I don't, I'm going to, those bulls are going to leave my place. Every year when I get done with my summer run, there's probably at least a third of those bulls that aren't standing on my yard within a week
Wow.
when we get done with summer run, because they were not as good as I want them to be.
Mhm.
And they may be fine on somebody else's truck, but I'm not feeding them. Like, I expect more. Like, I'm always probably the best thing and the worst thing ever to happen to me is airtime,
Mhm.
because airtime was such an extreme athlete.
Mhm.
He's a once in a lifetime bull, but now I compare everything. Like,
Mhm.
well,
Yeah.
you're not that damn good,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I'm extremely hard on him.
Mhm.
Granted, if I had a whole trailer load of air times, I'd get fired from way more than just
Yeah,
Cheyenne.
you would.
But it is like, I expect a lot out of them. And
Mhm.
because if you're going to stand here and eat, and it's going to cost me $3,600 a year plus to feed you, you better have a damn job and be good enough to go and do what we need to do. So
Yeah.
I am extremely hard on it
That's
when it
good,
comes
man.
to the cut line.
I think that's good. It's all about having standards and not comparing yourself to others' standards, right? And we see that all the time. It's so easy in this day and age,
Yeah.
Instagram, social media, looking at someone else, be like, yeah, I'm going to do what they're doing. Like, you do you. And it works,
Yeah.
man. And you're not afraid to say no, which is another thing that I think most folks have a hard time with today's world, is saying no to things that are not really feeding their end vision, man, their goal. You've had this vision since day one, and that's what the standard is. And if you're not up keeping it, on to the next one, see ya.
Yeah.
So
You can ask my
that's
kids. I don't have a problem telling somebody no.
yeah. I want to talk about your family a little bit. You guys, you've raised a family of badasses, which is so cool. I met your kids. They're badass. They're so cool. They're down to earth. They work hard. They're in the gym all the time. Like, you're in the gym all the time. That's one of the first reasons, or first time I ever saw you. I was with Richie, and you look so different than any other stock contractor, obviously, right?
I
Everyone's over there
fucking hope
smoking
so.
cigs. Yeah, fucking not gonna make it too much further, And I looked at Richie, I'm like, who's that guy? Like, he's kind of jacked. And he's like, oh, that's Matt. He owns Phenom Genetics. We've been working with Wade a little bit. And I'm like, hell yeah, that's cool as shit to see. So have you worked out your entire life? Or is that something you got into later in life?
Mainly later in life. I mean, like I said, I wrestled 103 pounds in high
Yes,
school.
you're little. Yeah.
So, like, obviously worked out, but I didn't have a lot to work with. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when when I was selling tools, when we moved to Michigan, I probably weighed 130 pounds, 5'9". So I was just skinny little shit.
Mhm.
And when we went to Michigan, I went through divorce and went through some tough shit in life. And instead, my dad was an alcoholic. So I knew, like, I couldn't rely on that side of things. So
Mhm.
I refused to drink. I mean, I drink, but I refused to drink when I was going through something really bad in my life,
Mhm.
because I didn't want to depend on it. And so I fell in love with the gym, and I'm like, man, I am going to get bigger. And so when I moved home from Michigan, I weighed 188 pounds. And, like, I busted my ass in the gym and just kind of fell in love with it. And then getting home and getting in the cattle business, it was like, in the bull business, it was like chaotic. And, like, if I don't work out and take the supplements I take and eat the way I need to eat, like, I might be 140 pounds.
Mhm.
But if I do the stuff I'm supposed to be doing, then, I'm right around 185, 190.
Mhm.
And it's the winter time's always easier for me. Because we're not on the road as much. Um, like, we built this little gym at the house, and this is where I work out. The kids usually go to other gyms and do whatever, but we built this during COVID because all the gyms are closed. And I'm like, piss on that. Like, our whole family works out. We're going to have a gym at the house.
Mm-hmm.
And so we built this, and like, I love it because I just like doing my thing in my gym, and I'm not waiting on anybody's equipment or doing anything else. But yeah, that was like figuring out the nutrition side of it and everything. It's yeah, I know for a fact that I have less minutes to live than I've already lived
Mm-hmm.
at my age.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, I don't want to feel like shit. Right.
Yeah.
I want to stay as
Enjoy it.
young as I can for as long as I can. And working out allows me to do that.
Yeah.
And so I have the energy, and I want to work, and I want to do things. And it's also, I mean, it's just have some self-respect.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, it gets to a point where when you look in the mirror and you're like, fuck, like,
Yeah.
what is that?
Yeah.
Like, that's not a good way to start your day.
Mm-mm.
But if you look in the mirror and you're like, oh shit, yeah, we're okay. Like, it, let's roll on. Let's go to the gym. And so I do. I love being in the gym. I do, like, I don't have the equipment that a regular gym would have, but it's an it. I've found a way to make it all work for me.
That's
And
the biggest
my
part.
kids are, yeah, Lacey's training to do a fitness competition. She's a little beast.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron Cameron is Cameron played Division I football. Um, he had actually had back surgery this spring, or this past spring. He had back surgery, and I think it was March. He had back surgery, had a herniated disc, couldn't lift for 6 weeks. Thought his football career was going to be done, and he when they finally cleared him to lift again, I said, Cam, what do you weigh? He's like 185. I said, what do you want to be for camp? He's like 210. Like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
we got some work to do. Like, here's the thing. Like, you can't, he was working at home for the summer. I said, you can't miss a workout, and you have to eat an exorbitant amount of food.
Mm-hmm.
So every day he'd have a pound of hamburger and a bag of rice for lunch. And we'd wake up in the morning, and like, we always have a bunch of eggs and, whatnot in the morning. And when he checked into camp, he was 209. And that was 6 weeks.
What a beast.
It's like,
What a beast.
he busted his ass, and he's so lean. It's pretty crazy. Like, he's very genetically gifted, and I can't take credit for that because he's my stepson.
It's still so cool, man. And to hear
Yeah.
the culture in the family is to be fit, to be strong. And like, I don't know what your guys' mantra is, but from meeting you guys, talking with you a bunch, following you on Instagram, I feel like your family's mantra is kind of like nobody cares, work harder.
Yeah, pretty
Like
much.
get
I
after
was
it.
thinking
Yeah.
about that. When you said it to me, I'm like, and I said something to my kids I probably can't say on here, but it was like that is kind of how we are. It's like, don't be a pansy ass. Like,
Yeah.
get your ass to work. Quit worrying about what someone else is doing. You can control what you can control, right? How you feel is 100% in your control. It isn't in anybody else's control. How hard you work in the gym, that's your control. Like, everybody's got an excuse for everything. And like, I really don't give a shit about your excuses, honestly.
Mhm.
Like, everybody's got them. Everybody's fighting something. Figure out how to use that to motivate yourself to be better. Don't use it as a damn crutch because, oh, my life sucks because of that. Well, congratulations. It's only going to suck more. Like, I
You
just, mentality wise, like, I'm pretty harsh with my kids. I've always been. But we like, it's it's been really good. Like, that's how my kids have been brought up. They understand like grittiness, being tough. Like, I had a conversation with Lacey one day. I said, next time, had to do with some dude. And I said, next time, just punch that son of a bitch in the mouth instead of talking to him. And she just kind of looks at me like, I'm like, some people, that's the only thing you can get through to them. Right.
Mhm.
And so it's just about, like, you can only take so much, and don't waste your time on people that are going to be not pulling in the same direction you are.
Mhm.
Like, go hang out with, and who you hang out with is crucial. That's where it's like hanging out with Flex, and what Flex has done. Um, Flex a great bodybuilder. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's unreal, but what he's done, him as a person, and some of the things he thinks about, like, I'm always trying to learn from everybody I'm around. everybody. Like you can always learn something, either what to do or what not to do, right? And Flex has taught me a lot of different stuff, like just whether it's business wise or marketing wise or social media wise or like so many different things. And I don't really talk to him about lifting and working out because it's like he talks to people about that shit every day. And I don't want to bug him with it, right? Now Lacey will touch base with him once in a while because she's working towards something that he's had tons of success in, right?
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool how you can, when you hang out with the right people, it's amazing how things change.
Man, we talk about that regularly, about you becoming the product of the people you surround yourself most with, you know.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with winners, you're probably going to be a winner. So surround yourself with losers, you're probably going to be the next loser. So
Yep.
it's crucial to life. And man, just hearing about your whole story and everything from how you got into the bull biz, about accidentally buying a cow online, and now here we are with probably one of the rankest sets of bulls going down the road. Is just so cool, man. And you've created an awesome culture around your family and been a great ambassador for the sport of rodeo. We really appreciate you coming on here today, man. It's been an awesome time catching up, and you shared some really great information. How can people find out more about Phenom Genetics and what you're doing?
You can follow us on Instagram at Phenom Genetics or Facebook at Phenom Genetics. Are the two best ways. And if people got questions on stuff, like I said earlier, like I answer all those questions. So if you got questions, shoot me a message and I'll try to help you any way we can. Um, yeah, and I appreciate you guys having me on. It is about being an ambassador for the sport. Like I tell people all the time, it's like there's a lot of people that don't want to talk about some of the stuff we need to talk about in rodeo. But I love rodeo enough. It's not for me. It's for our sport.
Yep.
And so we need to educate people because the other side of the world is fighting twice as hard to stop what we do.
Yep.
So our job is to advocate for what we do and let people know the truth of how the animals are treated and what it is we do. So there's a lot of light shed on our sport from Yellowstone, from everything else. Like it's in America, it's basically cool to be a cowboy again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's been a lot more light shed on us. It also brings some criticism. So like that type of thing, we just have to confront it and don't be scared of it. Don't be a jackass. Just explain it, and it's fine. So,
yeah,
absolutely, I appreciate you guys having me.
Heck yeah, man. It's been great. We got to thank our sponsors real quick. Beastmaster Rodeo, been with us since the beginning. They are changing the game in rodeo gear. You can use our discount code Champion Living, all one word, caps lock, going to save you 10% on all their products. You can find them at beastmasterrodeo.com. And then we've got to thank Hui. Hui has been with us for the last year. They have been outstanding. We're always rocking their gear. You can find them at getyourhui.com. Save 10% using our discount code Champion Living, all one word. That is not case sensitive. Guys, until next time, we'll catch you later.